My name is Slawomir Jasek, and here is my colleague Jakub. We are both pen testers at Securing. We do security assessments of various software components, applications, systems, networks, and so on. Among them, many proprietary protocols and solutions. After almost 10 years of dealing with the subject, I must admit that I still find the job really absorbing. That's really difficult to explain, but you just have to feel. You just have to feel the emotions when you break into the system. Finally, we would like to share a little bit of that experience with you.
Okay. So take a look at our agenda. We're going to show you some case studies from real-life industrial proprietary network protocols. So we can see they are everywhere. In home automation, I recently did a big research on pull printing solutions, remote desktop software, and forex trading software. And we'll also show you cheat sheets for owners, for deployers, architects, and developers, as well as testers, penetration testers of these solutions. And we'll also show you how to really hack it. So, how many of you are pen testers? Hands up. So, have you ever encountered a proprietary network protocol? Any of you? If not, you will. Yeah, because they're almost everywhere. So, do you ever feel this situation when you really know that there are gonna be some vulnerabilities inside in this software, but you cannot take out the outer layer, the layer of proprietary network protocol, because you don't have the specification, because you cannot decompile the client, or you just don't know where to put your fingers in. Maybe to watch the raw packets on a cable, so the network reverse engineering. So let's try to do this.
Okay. So our first example is a mobile application to remotely control your home. Your home, for example, to turn off something or turn on. The application works in connection with an appliance. You get an appliance from the vendor, you install it in your home automation network, and the other plug to your router, and connect it directly from the internet by port forwarding. And you set the password as an access control. So let's have a look at a few packets. How does it work? The protocol works something like that. So the client sends a few such packets. The server responds with something like that. Then the client sends something similar again, and the server responds with something similar again, and so on and so on. Does anybody see anything particularly interesting in the packets? Anything suspect? What could be some kind of hole in security? We've got some gadgets, so if you can help me, I can give you a cap, for example, with SQL injection. No, it's not XOR encryption. So, as a pen tester, you can alter some kind of, for example, values, which are then sent through the wire. So we have altered the password. So if we change the password, the packets look like this. The red one is the one that is sent from the client to the server, and the green is the response from the server. So this is password number 1, this is password number 2, and this is password number 3. Does anybody see anything? Well, Yes, 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 exactly. You can get this one. Okay, you can get a free beer after that. See you later. Okay, thanks. So it turned out that this is the password encoded. I mean, it's just MD5 of the password, not XOR, but you were close. Of the first 10 bytes of the password, and this is actually what is sent to the internal home automation protocol. And the green, the red one, sorry, the blue one is the things returned by the appliance to the mobile application. So there we have, for example, temperature or status of something and so on. Does anybody know what's wrong with the protocol? Sorry?
Good.
Sorry, I didn't hear you.
Replay. It's the replay. Replay
Yes, of course. We can do the replay attack. That's one of the problems because the password is always the same and it's enclosed in each packet. So we don't really need to know don't really need to know the clear text password. You can get a cap. Of course, we can also do sniffing of the protocol because we can see that there is clear text status of that. Of course, we can do man in the middle, do the replay, I mean, connect directly to the appliance. The recommendation for that was to put it in SSL. So after a few months, the vendor did the SSL support. It was a little bit of problem to implement it because they had to deploy it at the same time on the appliances and mobile clients for each customer. And at the end, they made something like that. Does anybody see anything wrong with this piece of code? No.
No, do it at the same time.
You are out of
Anybody
context.
else?
Okay. Do we have any mobile application developer? Yeah.
They all do that.
Yeah. Yes. Sorry?
There is nothing wrong here.
Yes, exactly.
Exactly.
They created empty trust manager. They didn't check any certificate. They trust all the certificates. So as you can see, we can still do the man in the middle attack. Well, that's very common in mobile applications. So we saw it even in banking applications. Okay, well, there's a little bit of interesting side effect because the vendor decided to sell the appliance for a big amount of money and give away for free the mobile applications on Google Plus, for example, or Google Play Store, etc. So it turned out that I can simulate this very expensive appliance with a single line of code. Just on my Raspberry Pi over here. So I just simply listen on a TCP port, read just the 5 bytes, cut off the password. The password is not necessary for me. The interesting part is the green one for me. And I then directly send it through TTL converter to my home automation network. So it works in my home. Well, I had to a little bit tinker it for the SSL version, generate my own self-signed certificate because application works with that. Okay.
Okay, so I mentioned you before that we did a big research on pool printing solutions. So first I will try to explain you what it is. So in normal situation, a user will just print the files directly to the printer. But in this case, he sends the file to the server. It's in the print queue. Then the user goes to the printer, and at the printer interface, he authenticates either by swiping his card or typing his username. And then the printer sends a communicate to the server on that line to release the print queue and collect the prints from the server. So why did we decide to hack pool printing solutions? mainly because they're widely used. They're used in banks, in financial institutions, in big corporations, because they all handle a lot of confidential data, such as contracts, payrolls, director documents, and so on. And it's getting really, really popular. It's not only in top Fortune companies, but also mid-sized and small businesses, mainly because this is really saving money. So let's make a quick threat modeling, like Q-risk for pool printing solutions. Any ideas? Exactly. So these are the print queues. So I would say, so the first one is actually sniffing the documents on the line between the server and the printer, getting to the other print queues. So we would not like to have subordinate employees getting to the director print queue. Any other? Well, okay, it's included in the sniffing, but maybe some more? Changing what, sorry? Good, but actually it's just like printing the other queues. Okay, so tampering the accountability, printing at others' expense. We'd not like to have people printing books in expense of their supervisors, let's say. And of course, stealing users' data. So not like to have user data stolen. So the attack vectors for this flow diagram is would like to have sniffing and perform man-in-the-middle attack on the line between the server and the printer. Of course, would like to access their other print queues. In most solutions here, we've got some proprietary network protocol. At the printer interface, would like to have some authorization bypass. And of course, there are some situations and solutions where the proprietary protocol is on the line between the server and the user. So we'd like to access, steal users' data, and if there are any web interfaces, would like to hack, for example, the administrative interface. So let's move to the case study number 1, pool printing. The vendor of this solution writes on his website that, with its roots in education and the full understanding that college kids like to hack, our development processes continually focus on security. So does it sound like a challenge for you? For me, it does. And secure print release can integrate card swipe user authentication at devices, ensuring jobs are only printed when the collecting user is present. So in this research, we'll try to challenge these claims, these vendor claims. So let's take a look on the binary protocol. It was between the server and the printer. Actually, let's omit the encryption layer, but let's focus on this binary protocol. So first, the server sends some hello communicate. That's okay. The printer sends the username of the user that authenticated at the printer, either by swiping card or typing his username. The server sends the token. The printer responds with a hash. This was a one-time token. The printer responds with a hash of a password plus token, and then the server validates it. After this, the printer sends the inside communication, like, for example, release the print queue, or I've just copied 100 pages, charge me. So what would you say? Where would you look for vulnerabilities here? Weak passwords. Good idea, actually, no. Replaying the password doesn't work, as this is one-time token. This is a challenge response solution. Yeah, of course it could, but it didn't. Okay, good,
Okay.
But
Let's assume the challenge response is okay.
so actually, yeah. That's a good idea. Give him something. So we tested this authentication process, and there were no vulnerabilities there. The hash algorithm was okay, and no other attacks. But let's focus on these other two communicates. So release my print queue, and I just copied 100 pages. This is Wireshark capture from this traffic. This is already after authentication. The blue ones are from the server. So the server sends some user permissions. Actually, there were some vulnerabilities here, but it's not the point. The point is that the printer sends a communicate, which is begin device transaction, for guest XYZ. The guest XYZ was the username. So, what would you do? Exactly, change this guest XYZ to the other user. And that's what we did, and that's what worked. So actually this communicate release my print queue was not release my print queue, but release print queue for user. I typed, and not just copied 100 pages, but charged user guest XYZ for copying 100 pages. Brilliant. Okay, so what were the consequences of this attack? Of course, sniffing, done. Print queues, done. We could tamper the accountability, and as it turned out, we're able to still use this data because the server responded with it. So all queue risks were broken. We then tried to notify the vendor, of course. So I would like to explain our research process. So first we contacted the vendor. We asked him for software. We said that we just want to hack your software. So he gave us access to the knowledge base at support service. That was good. That was actually amazing. That is not what happens normally. And as well as all versions of software. And when we sent him the vulnerability report, he responded in a few hours and released the patch for his software in a few days. And in our communication, he was really, really happy to be pen tested. So this is type of vendor that we would like to cooperate with. Okay, your turn.
Okay, as another example, we have a remote desktop protocol. It's some kind of additional layer on X Windows, adding encryption, compression, access control, and so on. It's used mainly for graphical mainframe access for critical business operations, which must be properly secured. For example, it's used in banking industry for forex trading operations. So the money involved are really high. The vendor claims that it has more than 100,000 users around the world, and it's FIPS certificated. So it ensures, in compliance with the FIPS, that the data is properly encrypted on the wire, and the proper certificates and algorithms are used. So let's have a look at the packets again. This is the first one sent by client to the server. That's the server response. And what happens next is generally an SSL. We'll deal with that SSL later, but let's focus on the first two packets. Any ideas how to attack them? Which one? The first one. Well, that didn't work. The server didn't respond to anything. How about that? If we were a man in the middle and responded from the server to the client, something like that. It turned out that this was the protocol version, and the previous protocol version did not support SSL. So the client happily changed the communication to clear text. So a man in the middle who could do that could just impersonate the server, send such packet to the client to get clear text login and encoded password. And how about the password? Well, we could do the repeat, just as I show in the previous example, but it was more convenient to get the password in clear text and to use the real client. So we have a look at the password. Of course, we could make any password and look at its encoded version. So this is the password. It looks in ASCII hex like that. And this is its encoded version. So any ideas? What would you do? Well, the first thing you should notice is that they are the same length. So.
It's an XR.
Yes. could it be the most popular encryption method? I mean, crappy encryption. Well, let's try. We can make the XOR, and we have the result. We decode the ASCII hex, and we get the password, the company's name of the software. So, of course, we can reverse the problem, and if we have this password, we can XOR it with the encoded version to get the clear text one. Let's get back to the SSL problem. Basically, in default configuration, the server didn't have any certificate configured, so offered only one cipher suit, anonymous cipher suit. So in that configuration, client didn't have any possibility to check the server's identity. So man in the middle is obvious here. And that's the configuration we saw in real life. But let's assume that somebody properly configured the certificates and the server sends the certificate and also proper cipher suits. So the client on the first connection asks, pop-ups a window and asks the end user if the certificate is okay. Well, of course, end user reads the fine MD5 or fingerprint and validates it and clicks OK, so that the following connections are secured. So if somebody tries a man in the middle, there is an alert in end user, and he can see that somebody is tampering the connection. But what can we do about that protocol? Any ideas? Well, the certificate check, let's assume the certificate check was okay. I mean, properly configured in a safe environment. In subsequent connections, it was checked, it was compared with the stored version from the first connection. I mean, okay, any ideas? Well, how about, do you remember the first configuration? How about if we send something like that to the client? Well, we would expect that, he alerts that there's something wrong with the connection, but he happily accepts it. So it turned out that we can do just a simple protocol downgrade, and the client forgets its certificate and accepts the connection. We can do the man in the middle in this example. So, well, this communications with the vendor was not as good as with Kuba. After initially setting a secure communication channel, well, we didn't know which CEO for the first, but after that we have exchanged a few emails, but it turned out that they probably do not plan to solve the issues. So according to the policy of disclosing in a proper way, responsible disclosure, we tried to email them if you have any problem, do you see any, do you need any help, we would like to publish this. Well, it turned out that they probably, well, we just felt like that, even with STDR. We finally, after a few months, could go for our favorite full disclosure. But unfortunately, well, the vendor did not react, even after full disclosure. But a few weeks later, they shut down the full disclosure. Sorry guys, we didn't want that.
Okay, let's switch to the pool printing solutions and talk about encryption. So, yeah, we like that these vendor claims. So let's take a look on the vendor website. So they say that is a modern printing solution that safeguards document confidentiality, and of course, its user authentication provides airtight security. Doesn't sound good for you? For me, it sounds like a challenge. So Some more corporate blabbling from this vendor. He says that documents are delivered only into the right hands, information is kept confidential, there is no risk, document collection is safe anytime and anywhere, and all the integration workflows are kept secure. So let's take a look on the binary protocol between the server and the printer. First look on communication. We see TCP protocol on communication on 2 ports. There is no clear text and there is no SSL, but some encryption is going on the cable. We don't know what is it, but it seemed to follow some scheme, and I would like to show you this scheme. So let's take a deeper look on that traffic. Let's make a quick quantitative analysis on this traffic. So first, free communicates, then a lot of encrypted small packets. After that, a huge load of data from the server to the printer. What do you think it is? Documents, yeah, probably. And then a short response from the printer. So now the full analysis of this protocol. The first communicate from the server to the printer was constant, and it had 263 bytes. It looked like that. You can see the new server crypt and a lot of null byte padding. So probably crypt, probably some encryption or encryption. Okay, the next, communicate from the printer to the server. Here you can see 96 bytes, some start communication, then a lot of null byte padding. Let's call it variable x bytes. Now it is 64 bytes, so 512 bits of information, and similarly a lot of null byte padding. We had a possibility to access the administration interface and configure this solution, and it offered some modes of encryption. We could change the asymmetric encryption and symmetric encryption. The asymmetric was between RSA 512 bits, RSA 1K, and RSA 2K. So this was in configuration of RSA 500. But what happened when we changed it to RSA 1024 bits? Of course, this middle part was doubled. So probably, what do you think? Yeah, the public key. Okay. Then the server sent always different 64 bytes. This is some start of communication, then 64 bytes. Any ideas?
Is it a version number somewhere?
No. Yeah. The symmetric key for, if it was an SSL, this would be a symmetric key for the symmetric encryption. So yeah, but it was good. Okay. So then we found in this huge load of data from the server to the printer, we found many identical 60-byte blocks. Look like that. Okay, now I want to ask you a question. What do you see here? ECB mode of encryption, exactly. I think we are running out of the glasses. Okay, so do you remember this ECB penguin? So this is a basic Linux penguin bitmap. If you encrypt this with ECB mode of encryption, you get this. It maybe the colors are not the same, but it's easily reversible. So the print jobs are the PostScript files, which are basically text files. Using them for encryption in the print jobs, not a good idea. So for our man in the middle attack, actually this was the moment that Sławek told me, Kuba, get it made. So challenge accepted. So there are some basic assumptions for our man in the middle script. Hello. So if this was an SSL, this would be a hello certificate, the session key for the symmetric encryption, and PostScript ECB mode files. So we did. It took us a long time, but I will just show you the consequences. So after reverse engineering the protocol, we found hard-coded RSA certificates in the printer embedded software. So not very good. Completely no truster. In this case, the printer sent its public key, so the server should check if this particular printer could connect to the server. And there was no truster, just like in the previous example. We found ECB mode of encryption used for traffic for the print jobs. and as well as the same protocol used in the admin interface, in the FIC client that connected to the server for the administration interface. Actually, after taking out this layer of a binary protocol, we could find some more vulnerabilities there. So really, really exciting. Consequences, of course, the same. Sniffing, print queues, accountability users data, everything. Okay, what happened when we notified the vendor? Because this was the most problematic there. We sent him a clear report, and he responded that many of the devices do not have the CPU power that allows a fast login response and at the same time establish high security level. Really? What the hell? So actually, this is the problem that pool printing solutions vendors face. So they face the problem of a fast login response, not a high security level. But they claim on their website, we have airtight security. So they also responded that changing ECB to CBC mode of encryption will be more CPU intensive, and introducing that may cause a slower performance, which the customers are very reluctant to see implemented. Are you kidding me? On a single-threaded processor on the printer, CBC, as for our calculations, it wasn't slower. So basically they could change it. And the last thing, they tried to convince us that this solution was secure because they already tested it in other high security customers. So basically their penetration testing company, not very good. Your turn.
Okay, so now we have another example. It's a protocol designed especially for high frequency, for example, for high frequency various stock or something like that, or forex exchanges. They had to design it binary because in order to minimize the delays, because there had to be almost no delay in the response from the server. The actions had to be taken at once. So they designed a proprietary protocol in a single TCP port and encrypted it in SSL tunnel. So the SSL encryption was okay, so we did take it off in order to see if we can hack the server. So after taking off the SSL, the packets didn't look very much better. So we started to watch the packets. Maybe you can see anything interesting here. Well, we started to watch, and we watched, and we watched. Well, here seems to be some numbers or some letters, at least. It looks like some kind of stock quotation or something like that. Here we have a little bit more even of the text. And here. And it actually started to be interesting over there. So let's have a look in Ascii mode. Any ideas? What could it be? Yes, of course. You will get a freebie. Okay. So this was basically a SOAP method invocation encoded in the binary protocol. So now there we can see a path on the server, probably. There we can see probably a method on the SOAP. And we have encoded here a response from the server. So it took a few hours, maybe a days even, to properly wrap this call in the binary protocol. But we finally did it. It was just a simple bash script in the effect in the end. So we could send a proper packet which called something else on the server. For example, we tried something like that. Well, that in the end didn't work because the admin interface, this admin interface wasn't configured properly on the server. But after a few hours of brute forcing, we were able to call something like that. The server responded with such soap communicate. Incorrect login. Well, what did it do? I have incorrect login. Well, that didn't mean that we are not authenticated. This response means that we didn't pass the login parameter. We added login parameter and we got error incorrect password. We added password parameter to the call. We got incorrect first name. We added first name, last name. We got the group with name now doesn't exist. So we added a parameter with group, admin of course. Well, it didn't work. Any other ideas? Well, administrator didn't work too. Root, yes, exactly. We tried the root, and let's see what happened. The server responded with something like that. So that's basically this moment. I would like to share with you because this is the moment of the glory. Yeah, we have a special procedure for that in our company, but I can't share with you. Of course, it looks like we have created a new user, probably in the root group. Well, we have authenticated on that user, and we are able to manage all the other accounts. Well, there were thousands of them, and this is a system used by really high volume, there are really high money in that, billions of dollars. So I could basically send this one packet from the internet. I didn't even have to have the account on that server. I could do it anonymously and create an administrative user who can manage all the other users and the data and the money. About the communications with the vendor, they really couldn't understand how the heck did we do it. So they understood that we have invoked it somehow, but they were sure that we broke the firewall here, that someone has misconfigured the firewall. And they couldn't believe that we were able to decode the protocol and use it to invoke some other web services. So of course they had to repair a few things in their application, and there were other problems in the backend. For example, to excessive error messages and lack of multi-layer protection. Okay,
now some cheat sheet for owners who deploy this. These kind of solutions, where are the proprietary network protocols? So first, get it pen tested. Do not fear. Get a good company to pen test it. You should verify the vendor claims. So you should ask for the secure software development lifecycle. You should ask for procedures. How do they handle incident response? How do they handle? How did they handle the previous bugs? And if you are developers, security by obscurity doesn't work. So the protocol is not secure just by its secrecy. So somehow it can be reverse engineered. First of all, use a proper encryption. If it's possible, avoid to write your own cryptography, because mostly you will mess it up. Use known standards and really take care with these implementations. And of course, some basic basic security cheat sheet. So use input validation, check the access control. If it's possible, use network level access control to countermeasure the man-in-the-middle risk. If it's possible, use IPsec or VLANs or 802.1x network level access control. use many layers of security, and of course the most proper advice, the least privilege principle. So remember about that, and now.
Okay, and now the cheat sheet for pen testers. We tried many different approaches to hack the protocols, and there is no simple answer for the question how to do that, because the proper answer would be that depends, because you have to bear in mind that for pen test you have usually very limited time, and you have to focus on the target, so that some parts of that, some approaches are ways to nowhere, and you have to know that you have to cut it off. So, of course, we can try to decompile the client. Sometimes it works, especially if it's Android application which is not obfuscated. It was the case with the MD5 password for the home automation protocol, where we could just decompile the mobile application, and we knew that it was MD5. But sometimes, for example, with remote desktop protocol, it can be really hard because you can spend hours and hours looking at the hex race, but you don't see anything that in fact brings you closer to the understanding of the protocol. But you can see some kind of, in this, for example, in this example with remote desktop, we have seen some kind of distractions. For example, something like that. So we knew that the piece of software was probably written by some Pole, probably named Sylwek, and he knew the old Polish joke about Stilic and Russian piano player. But that didn't bring us to nowhere closer to understand the protocol. We just looked at the well, of course, you can look for the manual. So it's for some clients, you have an official client, or you can have even Wireshark plugin. For example, for MQ protocol, the best available documentation is Wireshark plugin. You can ask for the documentation. It did work a few times. Social engineering of, for example, service help and so on. And you can search for the documentations. And yes, we did find internal protocol specification by Google hacking. Simple on the website for the developers of that company. We have tried, of course, watch the packets. Well, there are various tools to analyze proprietary protocols. They look very promising when someone presents them on an interesting, for example, show. But in fact, we didn't find them very helpful because it took a lot of time to understand how it works, how to configure it, and they usually didn't work for our cases. So in fact, we just looked at the raw packets and just tried to spot some kind of scheme. And of course, with the help of standard command line or GUI tools. And to hack the protocol, we used, in fact, our favorite scripting languages, Python, PHP, or even Bash. So it was just enough. It was for our purposes, it was okay. So I believe you have some interesting questions for us, and in the meantime, I will tell you that we are looking for a new colleagues. So please write to us your CV. And of course, you can talk with us. We are almost here at our stand. So come and talk with us. And if you have any questions, please ask them.
Any questions? No.
Well, of course, you can
I
come
don't
to us and talk about it.
Okay, so thank you very much. Big applause.
Okay.